Hello, everybody. It is Board of Selectmen meeting. It is now 7:24, and it is July 7th. Apologize for the delay. We began our meeting this evening with an executive session, which we will get into in a moment. But I wanted to just jump right in. And, I did have one thing I wanted to say before we turn over to the town administrator, is that I wanted to commend all of our public safety officers from the police department, fire department, and harbor master for all of their work over this long 4th of July weekend. They did a great job, and I was pleased to see that the residents minded their COVID and safety rules. So thank you to the community and especially to our safety officers. And with that, I'll ask Jim to give a quick update from the town administrator.
A bunch of different things today. I'll start with the COVID, no cases today. So as I updated yesterday, we've had 2 new positive cases in the last week and 2 new antibody cases. The 2 positives are a healthcare worker from Boston and a Scituate resident who traveled out of state, so we would not attribute those cases to anything from the reopening of the economy. We're still in a very good run. The state was at 1.9% positive tests today, so those numbers are still way down. Masks, social distancing, and hand washing are working. For the water restrictions, we are in phase 2, total ban on all non-essential water use. Handheld only for gardens, flowers, and plants before 9 and after 5. Just to give you some numbers, the week of June 15th through the 21st, the treatment plant in the wells averaged about 2.5 million gallons a day. Yesterday, the treatment plant in the wells was about 1.7 million. So use is way down. We know use was down last week. Whether that's because we got rain or whether because we put on the restrictions, it really doesn't matter. It does show us that the water use is the water that we're putting outside and using on the lawn. So that is working. We're asking people to keep that up because we're saving about 500,000 gallons a day with the water restrictions. I saw something from the Water Resource Committee today that watering your lawn is like filling your bathtub 12 times. So it uses a lot of water. So phase 2 of the economy started yesterday. Gyms, fitness centers, movie theaters, museums, cultural and historic sites, and certain outdoor venues are allowed to open. Gatherings up to 25 people inside and 100 outside with square footage restrictions. Weddings moving forward, no dance floors, no bars. They tend to go together, so one without the other I think is not a good thing. The guidance for the sports leagues finally came out. It is very convoluted. So for youth sports and sports, it's now phase 3, step 1. And there are 3 categories of activity: lower risk, moderate risk, and higher risk. And then there are 4 levels of play, with level 1 being social distancing, no contacting, level 4 being tournaments with round robin type of competition. So just to give you an example, tennis is level 1, which is moderate. They can do all 4 levels of play up to and including tournaments. Baseball is level 2, so tennis is low, level 1, phase 1. Baseball is level 2. They can do the first 3 levels of play. They can have games, but they can't play in tournaments. Football, soccer, hockey, lacrosse are high risk uses. They can only do level 1 of activity, which is social distancing, no contact, no scrimmaging, no nothing. So they will not be allowed until much later on to actually participate. So my daughter's spring basketball league was scheduled to start tomorrow. That has now been pushed off because they're not allowed to play yet. So
what about sailing?
Sailing, I believe, is sailing with a 2 to 3 person crew on board is a moderate risk. Sailing with more than 3 people on board is a high risk. So we'll get this up on the website, but it's very sports specific. We didn't think it was going to be that specific, but it is. Phase 3 will be until a vaccine or a cure for coronavirus. So we're going to be in this for quite a long time. I did want to update the board on July 3rd at approximately 4:40 p.m. The head lifeguard, Eliza Nicholson, down at Egypt Beach, noticed 2 swimmers in distress. They had been in the surf zone, and they drifted into the swimming zone way out past the rocks. Lifeguard Craig Carlino grabbed the rescue board and started out to get them. Eliza Radio for the Scituate Harbor Master and the Scituate Police Department. They both responded. Craig went through 4 to 6 foot swells to get to the 2 distressed swimmers. He was able to get to them, a 12 and 13-year-old boy, get them on his board, get them calmed down. The Harbor Master's craft came in through those swells, and we were able to get them on the boat, take them back to Jericho. They were unharmed, but Craig showed extreme bravery and heroism. The quotes I got from the rest of the team were, he was like lightning and without hesitation. He's a true hero. They wouldn't have made it if it weren't for Craig. And he saved them. I've never seen anything like that in all the years I've been guarding. I did see Craig today. I was down Peggotty Beach for something else and congratulated him. We will have him in and the Harbor Master staff in at our next meeting. This was too late when I got all the information.
That was going to be the next statement is, can we do a citation for...
Fantastic. Lifeguarding, everybody looks at it and thinks they don't do anything. They just stand there. And they do, but when they have to be ready, they have to be ready. And it's knowing what it's like on Friday, that's really an outstanding rescue. So congratulations to him, to the Harbor Master staff, and everybody who pulled that off. And we will have them all in again at your next meeting, but I want to let the board know about that and know about that rescue. Town Hall open today. We're going to be open regular hours with the exception of Tuesday night. We'll be closing at 6. That's just to give us a chance to clean the building and get ready for meetings. Masks will be required. We do contact tracing for anybody that's into the building. You must provide your contact information. You've seen the markers on the floor and social distancing and hand sanitizers. We had about 107 visitors today.
Really?
54 of those were in the treasurer's office. We think the majority of them were for transfer sticker stations, transfer station stickers, and 30 in the town clerk's office, and the rest were just 2, 3, 4 here and there. We still ask that people, if you can work remotely, to continue to work remotely to protect yourself and protect our staff. Brown water, again, we're going to talk about this. If you have discolored water, please let us know. It doesn't have to be brown. It doesn't have to be black. If it's discolored, let us know. Those are important data points for us. The Water Department, 781-545-8735. Email at brownwater@scituatema.gov. Just I got this from Kevin earlier. In 2019, total water complaints through email, phones, and the online survey were 1,691 for all of 2019. Year to date so far for 2020, we have 46. So
Good job.
we hope it will be better. We think it's better, but if you're still having a problem, please let us know. So one, we can try to help you. Until we can look at why that is happening and try to fix it. Given the use we've had over the past several weeks, we would have expected to really have a lot of bad water, and it hasn't materialized yet. So that's just the Water Department did a great job with the flushing program and everything else they did. So congratulations to them. 2 more things. The band concerts in Cole Parkway will either start this week or next week. That allows them to phase 3 with social distancing and masks. They're not sure if they can get all their paperwork in for this week. If they do, they will. And the recreation programs, you'll see those people out. Recreation is up and running. They were over here on the football field today. They're all over town, so good luck to recreation. And again, wash your hands, cover your mouth, and wear a mask when you're out, and we'll keep driving these numbers in a good way, and we won't have to reclose and start this all over again. So that's what I have for today.
Thank you. Anyone have questions for Jim? Ms. Conley?
I've had, I did notice on Facebook, and I will preface it by saying that, but I also got a few calls. Not everyone is universally happy about the closure of Front Street. And so I'm just wondering, has Town Hall received any calls from any business people in particular?
Not that I'm aware of. We received one the other day from, what's the name of that? Scituate Package Store.
Yeah.
He feels the closing's impacting him, even though the road's open to where he is. We did see, and I know the police department's got numerous complaints on Allen and Otis.
Right.
And we're meeting tomorrow to see what we can do about alleviating those complaints.
Well, there was quite a long string, and I'm just hoping that someone, maybe Scituate Loves Local, could do a little canvas to make sure that if there are concerns of businesses down there, that they're getting not as much business because people are confused about what it means to close Front Street. And maybe we should be saying pedestrian traffic only on Front Street, something like that, so that it doesn't make it sound like Front Street is closed. So that's just my suggestion.
Good idea. Good. Any other questions for Jim?
Quick question
Rich,
on
sorry.
transfer station, can recycling, when can that resume?
I'll have to check with Kevin. I can ask him if he's still here.
Okay.
I can ask for that. Off the top of my head, Andrew, I don't know.
Yeah.
Mr. Benoit?
Yeah, I was just going to add, I've heard the exact opposite on Front Street, that I can't tell you how many people come up to me and say what a great idea it is, we should do it year-round. And really, Front Street isn't closed, it's really just detoured. You can get around it pretty easily.
The signs say Front Street
Yeah.
closed, so that's, sometimes it's a
Most people in town
semantical
know
issue.
at this point, it's been a month. But, unfortunately, sometimes Facebook,
No, that's
goes
why I
off the-
said it. That's
Yeah,
why
no,
I said it.
I'm not-
But it's out there.
I'm not critiquing, I'm just saying that
It's out there.
that I've heard very, very positive things about it from many residents about that. So, but there is ways to get it better, and certainly the traffic isn't bad. I mean, if you've ever commuted to Boston, you know bad traffic. Having to sit in a little bit of traffic on Front Street isn't that bad. But the speeding is what concerns me on those side streets. So I know that Jim's and Chief Thompson are addressing that. And great news on the brown water, on the water situation. I mean, really the water department should get a citation
Yeah.
for the work that they've done to get us from this level down to that level. So,
Good idea.
Laura, anything?
I just, Jim, does Drew have an appointment with the new superintendent to talk about PPE opening plans for the schools? Because I don't know where he's getting.
I don't know if Drew does. I've spoken to him. I'm going to speak to him again. I don't
Okay.
know if specifically he's talked to Drew.
Well, I just thought Board of Health, right?
I mean, the guidelines are 20-something pages long. If he has any questions, he could ask Drew, but I don't think there's a lot of ambiguity in a lot of them. They're all pretty straightforward. I know Nancy's been talking to them, telling them to order their PPE, get the orders in now, so,
Okay. That was going to be my other question because.
masks,
Okay, good.
masks, the plexi stuff, because there's a long lead time on the plexi stuff, some of it, so. I know she's been on Paul Donlin for probably a month now to start ordering that stuff, so. And then we're gonna meet with the superintendent again, he just started, so
Yeah.
we'll meet with him again and go over what he thinks he needs. Because it's definitely eligible for the CARES Act stuff that we get,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Anybody else?
Madam Chair?
No, great, thanks, Jim. Yeah, I agree, the water department, we need to think about a way to really let the public know how much we've accomplished and to commend them for getting it done. That's a great thing. If that's it, I'll move on to our 6:50. Apologize for the late start. It was to discuss vote, we're not having a discussion on the non-union personnel contract for the town administrator. The board met in executive session prior to this meeting because our esteemed town administrator's contract is coming due sooner than we would like, and we need to start the renegotiation of that contract. And so we began that conversation today. There's nothing to vote on because we began the conversation. Any questions about that? Do we need to open up for anything? Okay. Do we have anyone waiting? And I neglected to say that. I neglected to say at the start of the meeting that we are meeting under the Governor Baker's public health emergency guidelines, and the public is invited to participate, and you may dial in by calling 425-436-3608 or 425-436-6338, and the access code is 817651 #. And I apologize I didn't say it at the start.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
The first number is
Did I
just,
say it wrong again?
yes. You have a
All
mental,
right.
you have a
Would the
mental
clerk
block on that
please read the
number.
numbers?
I know. What? 425-436-6308.
I swear I'm dyslexic to these numbers. All right. In the future, I'll have a placard so that we can just put it up. Okay, moving on to 7 o'clock. Approval of collective bargaining memorandum of agreement for the police. And Robert Clark, our Human Resources Director, is to walk us through that.
Thank you. Yes, so we've been negotiating with the police union since the winter for a successor collective bargaining agreement. So the last collective bargaining agreement just expired in FY20. So we have a memorandum of agreement which we've submitted to the Board of Selectmen for their approval and signature. So I'll review some of the key components to that. There were a number of sort of incidental changes that you'll notice in the MOA. Housekeeping issues, getting rid of some old language, so I won't spend a lot of time on those, but we'll talk about the sort of major components. One is the negotiated wage increases. So we basically agreed to wage increases of 1% for this coming year for the first year of the contract, 1% for the second year of the contract, and 1.5% for the third year of the contract. In the course of meeting with the police union, it became apparent to us, and they made it very clear that their priority really was for us to look at the education incentive article of the contract. And the way the education incentive article works is, at one point in time, there was a statute called the Quinn Bill, in which eligible officers would receive a stipend based on their age. It's a percentage based on what degree they may hold. And all towns and municipalities were required to pay that stipend. And that was true until probably, a dozen years or so ago. And I believe it was in 2009, I'm sorry. But anyways, there was a year in which we were no longer required to actually follow that statute. So the town continued to pay an education stipend to officers, but it wasn't at the same level as the Quinn Bill. And so the police union and the membership, their priority really was to make them whole, and actually to bring up the current employees or more recent officers hired to the same level as the officers who were getting the Quinn Bill. And ultimately, and I think their argument was really that we should be looking to get educated officers. It benefits the town, it benefits the employees, the department, and most importantly, it benefits the residents to have officers who are educated and well trained. So we agreed wholeheartedly with that, and so we entered into discussions regarding basically applying the Quinn Bill to all eligible officers. The concern was that it was potentially relatively expensive. And the union understood that as well. So what we did is we really sort of transitioned over the course of the contract to provide that benefit. So what we did is the first year of the contract, there's a status quo, so there's no change to the education incentive. The second year of the contract, eligible employees who were not receiving the Quinn Bill would get 1/3 of the difference between what they were getting before in the Quinn Bill. And the third year of the contract, they would get 2/3 of the difference between what they were getting previously in the Quinn Bill. And on the last day of the contract, they would get the full Quinn Bill. So by the time the contract expired, all officers who were eligible would be getting the full Quinn Bill. And ultimately, by sort of phasing it in, it allowed us to minimize the economic impact, and it allowed us through the course of the contract to reach a point where all of our officers were receiving the full Quinn Bill. Many other towns are doing exactly that, so the other thing is it helps us in terms of recruitment as well. Not only are we getting educated officers, but by providing that particular incentive, it helps us to recruit well-trained and educated officers.
So where is that in here, and what is the monetary impact?
So it's, in the MOA, it is...
Number 4 under educational incentive. It's about 0.5%, Tony, roughly. 1/2, 3/4 of a percent.
0.5% of their pay.
Well, total cost of the contract, it's about between 1/2 and 3/4 on the cost of the contract. So it's going to vary for each individual officer depending upon what they're getting now and what they're eligible for. So everybody's going to get something different.
So currently, there were 12 officers who receive the current stipend, which is a set amount. You say like $5,000 for bachelor's. And then there's 12 officers who are already receiving Quinn. So those 12 officers who are receiving that set amount will actually, instead of getting a set amount, will actually get the percentage. But again, it's gradually, it's over the course of the contract. So that they'll all reach that same, they'll get that same percentage standard that the other officers are receiving.
Right, and the way, my question is, the way that it's written, so it's presented as a stipend, is there an obligation for them to continue education under this? Okay.
But now there's an actual incentive for them to go and do it.
Any other questions? I'm sorry, did I interrupt?
Yeah, the only other sort of piece I want to point out is there's a new sick leave abuse policy, which is something that we, not that we see it as a particular issue with this particular bargaining unit, but we really wanted to have some language in there so that if in the event we were in a situation in which we had an employee who we thought may be abusing their sick time, we wanted to have some standards that we could apply to make sure that we could address that issue. So that's something that we were also able to add to the contract, which is something that was important to us, the management.
We made a lot of substantial changes in the last contract, so this one we weren't reaching as far on that, but the sick leave was a big thing that we wanted to get in the contract this year.
What paragraph is that?
8.
Yeah, this is obviously a great deal of work, and thank you for getting it to this state. Does the board have additional questions about the contract?
I got to admit, I had Bob do most of it. We met, we set the parameters, and he did most of the hard lifting on this contract. He did a really good job on it, so I appreciate him for that.
Yeah, a couple questions. So is this an additional step at 28 years?
Yes.
So, right, there's an additional step at 28 years. There's a current benefit. It's called a senior man pay that officers receive. So over the course of 3 years, they choose what the years are, and it's typically at the end of their career, they can get a bump of 5% for those 3 years. So we agreed to this. It's almost sort of in lieu of that. So they're no longer eligible for the senior man pay, but instead we basically agreed that after 28 years of service, they would be eligible for a 4% increase.
Where's the language that says the other thing is coming out?
It is.
It's really helpful when we get these if it's redlined.
It is red line.
Oh, is it? Mine.
Yours was that?
Yeah, mine is. The only changes are in red.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, the step is new and it's not redlined.
Well, a lot of the red is typically a deletion, but number 16, effective July 1st, no new enrollment as in the senior officer program is permitted.
16?
Number 16.
Yeah, you're right, that's not red.
So it's really just switching one for the other. And at 28 years, most of your officers are going to be 50-ish, give or take, depending on when they started. And they're eligible for their full pension when they're like 52, 53.
So why would they do that? Why would they get rid of a 5% increase for a 4% increase?
If you take the 3-year bump and then you decide you want to keep working, it goes away. This doesn't go away.
So it's your final 3 years.
Well, they could take it whenever they wanted. The senior man didn't have to be their final 3 years, did it, Bob?
Right, earlier.
So they could say, all right, I think I might retire in 3 years, take the senior man pay, and then say, well, I changed my mind, or my kid didn't get the college scholarship I thought he was going to get, and I have to keep working, and then their pay goes back down. So
But the 4 stays.
4 stays as long as they keep working, yep.
Is the Quinn meal mandatory?
No.
It had been years ago.
when the Quinn bill originally came out, it was 50% reimbursed by the Commonwealth. And then part of I think it was the 2008 fiscal meltdown, the states zeroed out their contribution to the Quinn bill. Some towns continue to do it. Other towns negotiated different things, which is what they did in Scituate. They negotiated a different educational incentive. But what it ends up happening is now you have a department that's split between guys who get it and guys who don't. It creates a real issue. And as Bob said, in terms of recruiting, it is definitely an issue for us when we want people to come here. They're going to gravitate to towns with the Quinn bill as opposed to coming to Scituate because the pay is just not going to be the same.
Mr. Goodrich?
Yeah, just a quick question on Article 11, the hours of work. So changing it from 4 consecutive days, and she'll have the next 2, or she'll also do the 5 consecutive days. And so does that help with overtime, or is that?
No, you have specialists that work a 5 and 2, and it's not in the contract. It says it's supposed to work a 4 and 2, so that just is kind of a technical change to deal with those specialists, like your school resource officer or your court officer. They'd work a 5 and 2, so it's just to make sure that they're covered in the contract.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right, makes sense.
Any other comments from the board?
What's the total monetary change in this with all the things you've made on the contract?
So, over the course of 3 years, the entire course of the contract is $209,000.
And you calculated who would get the 4%
Yep.
that time period? And what percent is that? 9, what's that, 4 million?
209,000. That's what that'd be, a little over 6. Over 3 years, 209,000.
I'm going to say yes because my mental math skills aren't there to deny it.
It's going to be a little over 6, Tony. Between 6 and 7, I think.
Are we expected to vote this tonight, or?
We'd like you to, yes.
Further questions about it? There's, I can't help myself on Article 17. There's a typo in the header. It's occupational hazard. Amendment spelled wrong. Michelle, is anyone waiting?
We do have 2 callers.
We should open to question and answer, please.
Q&A session has started.
Is anyone wishing to speak on the collective bargaining agreement with the police? Please press *6 to be heard. Okay, no one's there. Thank you.
Q&A session is over.
Would anyone like to make a motion, or would you prefer?
Move to approve the collective bargaining memorandum of agreement for the police union.
By Ms. Connolly, is there a second?
A second.
Ms. Curran, second. Is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor, aye. Sorry, forgot that part.
Aye.
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 All opposed? Seeing none, unanimous. Thank you for all your hard work on this. I know this is a tricky negotiation, and
Nancy thanks you because this reduces the amount of retro pay she has to do. So,
Thank you,
Okay.
Bob. Thanks, Jim. I know it's,
Thank you.
it's not easy to do that, so thank you.
Thank you.
appreciate it. We're going to move on to the 710 discussion. I apologize to those waiting, to the proponents waiting. We are to be discussing a special event application for Chalk the Walk. Is Emily Doherty available?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry to be behind schedule, Emily. Thank you for waiting. Would you like to just outline what the application, what you're intending with your application for the board, please?
Yeah, of course. And I'm also here with my husband, Connor, so you'll hear both our voices if that's okay.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Hi, Connor.
Okay. So we submitted an application to do a sidewalk talking event on a Saturday morning from 9 to 11 in Scituate Harbor. Our event was geared towards families because I know we, among a few other families in the community, were saying we wanted to do something to show that Scituate is a community that stands for equity and justice, and that, you know, the things happening in our country might not be happening here, but they still really matter here. So I know a lot of kids have been, like our son and his friends were talking on their sidewalks, but then we said it might be a nice community effort to have some families come together and like collectively talk a sidewalk in town. And, you know, since talk isn't permanent, we thought that, you know, might be an appropriate thing to do in a public space. And so we were kind of like looking at different spaces around town and thinking of what felt safe for families, especially families with small kids, and felt like the Cole Parkway sidewalk section that, you know, is basically not in front of any of the marina gates, but does, you know, it's not adjacent to any busy roads. There's plenty of parking. Felt like, you know, at least to us, a safe option for families. You know, we noticed there are things like trash cans nearby. There might be some local businesses that could benefit from having the extra foot traffic there on a Saturday morning. And so that was kind of like our vision for the event. Is there anything you wanted to add that I missed?
For me, a big part of this too was our son, you know, we usually have the radio on in the background in the house, and he was asking a lot of questions about the stuff he was overhearing us talking about or hearing on the news and the radio. And it always bothered me that the news stories are the sensational outliers and not the norm. And so, you know, I texted Chief Thompson, who I know, and said, hey, you know, I know coronavirus is going on, but do you mind making an exception that I could bring Killeen up to the station just to see that, like, Scituate police aren't the police in the news right now because they do their job well, and I just wanted to have a positive experience with some uniformed officers. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. So we had a great day up there. We met the school resource officer. We've met before, and he remembered her, and we had a nice time. And then that same day, that afternoon, we went and did some peaceful protests. And, you know, I just tried to explain to him that, like, there's a right way to do it, and trying to describe to him, like, civic duty, and, you know, you apply for a permit, you do it in a proper, respectful way, and that's what freedom of speech is all about. And what the police are there for is to protect our right to freedom of speech, and that positive community and police relationships rarely make the news, and it's just tough because that is the reality here in Scituate, that we have a nice positive relationship, I feel like, from the community to the police. And I just want to create that more and make it more visible for people, to remind them that that's our lived truth here in Scituate.
Okay. Thank you for that. Before I open it up for questions from the board, I just want to note that and this is Karen speaking, that we did receive an email from Chief Thompson that, generally speaking, he thought that the taking place on the sidewalk, parking was available, they would not have an issue, and that the location from Mountain One, Coffee Corner, and over, but, you know, up to about the bandstand would not impede mariners going to the marina or boaters going, or fishermen going down the boat pier.
I don't think it's up to the bandstand. He's talking about the area in that smaller little parking lot right across from the coffee corner. You know, like where everybody
in
goes
this
to see
section
like
right
the little
here?
ducks, and it's a little bit safer.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I was looking at your application, so it says see attached image.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's looking for this area right there. This area.
And just while you're looking
Oh,
at that,
okay.
you go down this
Oh, I'm
path,
sorry.
and
I
you see
completely-
what the foot traffic there was like at the time.
Yeah.
And that's why we sent an updated attachment with the proposal for the least traffic areas, so we're the most out of the way.
Okay. I'm sorry. I totally misunderstood this because I was looking at your application and his letter at the same time. He was recommending that you move to the section over, it is over by Coffee Corner, that has the that parking area it's enclosed on both sides, to the north of the boat ramp was what he suggested was a better location than along the parkway.
I'm open to that, absolutely. I think that would be fine.
And then the other thing I would note is the DPW would appreciate, rather than using the barrels, if you could take any trash you generate with you, because those get pretty full over the holiday weekend, or over the weekends.
Yeah, absolutely, not a problem at all.
Okay. With that, now that I've messed that up royally, let me see if my smarter colleagues have any questions. Anyone? Karen
I
Conley?
need to visualize this. Coffee Corner
Here.
is,
Across from Maria's,
Yeah.
first piece,
Can you?
going
across from
around.
Maria's, where the ducks are.
Yeah,
Yep.
Okay, so Coffee Corner has nothing to do with this.
so it's kind of,
It's
Here's
just
the
giving,
Well,
this
Coffee
section
Corner is, it's next to the bank, which
Just
is
talk-
a busy
I know.
parking
look
lot.
at the,
Here, this
That was
one
in
that
the
has the interior.
Yeah. Yeah, if you'd said where the ducks are, I would have known, but
By the ducks.
Coffee Corner is across the street in a busy parking lot, so thank you. So,
Do we have questions for the applicants?
yeah, if you can just give us a sense of what are you doing exactly? I know you're going to draw pictures on the sidewalk, or is it little kids? How old are the kids? I saw 15 families as kind of the size of the event. What's your intent of the event itself?
Yeah, so we noticed the sidewalk sections there are, I don't know, maybe like 4 to 5 feet in kind of like width. So we just envisioned, that families could come masked and in order to social distance, like space out and just like take a section of sidewalk as a family. We have a 4-year-old, for example, so it was definitely an event that we knew like we would take our son to this if someone else were organizing it. I know many of our, like his classmates' families have expressed interest, so I think it would kind of be in that similar age range, and then perhaps up, to more like upper elementary students. And just each family like taking a section so that way we can socially distance and they can like either write a message or draw a picture about either like what justice means to them, what equality means to them.
And as far as like what is our intention, for me, I've seen protesters out at different places in town, and I don't think that I would necessarily ever bring my son to some of those protests because of the ages of the people there and the settings. I don't think they're safe, but I also think it's a very important learning experience for any young American to understand what peaceful assembly is, what the right of freedom of expression is, and how unique it is to this country. That really only dawned on me when I was 22 and I was in Bahrain, and I got to read a newspaper that was just so beyond skewed with government-controlled bias. And I realized how unique America is for our ability to do peaceful protest and freedom of expression. So I want our kids to learn about that from a young age in a safe way. And I think if we have a general understanding for everyone there that, yeah, let your kids talk out if they want to talk something about what they've been hearing in the news. If they want to write down, I love Legos, they can write that down. As long as it's a G-rated message, because this is a family-friendly event, they can talk whatever they want.
Mr. Goodrich? Oh, sorry.
No, Madam Chair, under what criteria could we deny these people this anyway? Do they even need a permit? This is a peaceful assembly.
Well, this is an event as opposed to an assembly.
Right,
The event is writing and speech.
right.
Yeah, I would be remiss if there's any reason for us to deny this for any purpose. Which, right,
Well,
people
to
can
Mr.
peacefully
Goodrich's
assemble.
point, I think you're absolutely right that, there's peaceful assembly, and they are asking to create an event which will impact town property, and I respect that they came to ask for this permission, because that is definitely, it's a town resource they want to use, and I'd much rather it occur with our blessing, if we are to give it, but as you say, I don't know, I would have to I would have to ask one of the attorneys if we actually could stop them. But Ms. Curran, you wanted to?
Yep. I just have a couple questions about sort of process. I think the idea is great. I agree with Chief Thompson that it should be over in the area that is less traveled and safer, especially for elementary-aged children. Couple of questions for you. How are you going to manage the number of families that show up? Because you will have to socially distance every 6 feet, and how are you going to mark off every 6 feet? So you might have to determine exactly how many families can actually come and participate in this while maintaining proper social distance.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think it would be easy enough for us to show up early and make some little chalk marks at 6-foot intervals. And then if we run out of space, you know, we can just say, I'm sorry, unfortunately, the area that we have designated here by the town, we've run out of space, so I'm sorry, but like, you know, you'll just have to go maybe chalk on your driveway or somewhere else because this area that we have designated is full as far as social distancing. And I feel like in my own experience, a lot of people have been pretty okay with, you know, bending to what they would usually do because of coronavirus. So I wouldn't anticipate someone pushing back hard against that. And I will say that I think 15 families is very optimistic on our on our end, given how short of a turnaround time we'll have between now and the proposed date.
Okay, yeah, I was curious how you were advertising it.
We're really just going to be texting it to our immediate friends from our kids' daycares and hoping they spread it to their friends. You know, we know of 4 families who would absolutely come down and join us. Beyond that, it's hard to imagine what the commitment would be.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Conley, you have another comment?
Yeah, I'd just like to suggest that because they want to write on public property, even though it's with chalk, which can be removed by the rain and everything, because they're asking to do something to the physical property of the town, that's probably where we do have a right to request a permit. So,
Any other comments?
No?
Is there anybody, I'd like to, I want to note one thing I neglected to say, that in Officer Thompson's email, since I had so much trouble reading it apparently, is that they will have a presence in the harbor, but they are not able to commit a dedicated officer to the event. I don't know if you were aware of that, but I wanted to let you know.
Okay, that's too bad. I was hoping school resource officer could be there.
Yeah.
So,
But thank you.
but thanks for letting us know.
Okay. I'd like to open it up to question and answers for the public.
Q&A session has started.
Hi, if anyone would like to have a discussion about the Chalk the Walk event, please dial *6. Hearing no one, I will close the Q&A.
Q&A session is over.
So we've been requested two things. One is to approve the special permit, and the other is to waive the special event fee they've requested. I'd like to have a quick discussion about that. Does anyone have any comments about that request specifically? Usually that fee is used to offset potential town expenses that might result because of the event. Anyone?
Yeah, I don't know how you charge them a fee for this. I'm willing to waive it, only because it doesn't seem like your normal special event. You know, it's really not requiring a lot of town resources.
Okay. Then, if anyone else has any other comments, I will entertain motions. We only need 2.
Move to approve a special event permit to Emily Doherty for Chalk the Walk on July 18th from 8:30 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. with a rain date of July 25th, 2020.
Moved by Mr. Vignani. Is there a second? Mr.
Second.
Goodrich, seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No? Ayes have it, 5-0 in favor. Congratulations. We look forward to seeing you guys on the
We've gotta
sidewalk.
Want to waive
do
the
this.
fee?
Waive the
Waive the
event
fee.
fee.
Sorry. Oh, damn it. I'm just not having a good night tonight.
Move to waive the $100 special event fee.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Second by Mr. Vignani, moved by Ms. Connolly. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No? All right, now I'll say congratulations. And I will point out that I
Thank
had,
you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Have fun.
I did have a root canal yesterday. I might still be under the Novocaine here. All right, moving on. The next is a discussion vote on recreation disclosures for municipal employees. This is done annually in the event that there's a town employee that also wants to work in the rec department. They need to disclose those publicly because they are already employee of the town. Is that accurately described, Mr. Vignani?
It is.
All right.
Yep, we do it every year. It's people that have dual roles in our municipal government. Would you like a motion?
I would love a motion. Thank you.
Move the Board of Selectmen, as required by Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 268A, have reviewed the disclosure forms from the following municipal employees who seek to provide personal services to Scituate Recreation. The exemption under subsection 20B is approved for the following municipal employees: Andrew Barlow, Ellen Burke, Aaron Colpert, Elizabeth Dorgan, Lisa Howell, Brian Hercom, Dave Jordan, Amanda Kent, Kathleen McCarthy, Craig Parkins, Matthew Poirier, and Jonathan Schindler.
I have a motion by Mr. Vignani. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Curran. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Oh,
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion moves 5-0. We will move on to discussion vote of the changes of hours for the Voyage Restaurant extension of premises from Keith Callahan and Rue Graham, the manager. Are they, Keith and Rue, are you on the line?
Yeah, we're here. Good afternoon, members of the board.
I apologize for the delay. You've been to before us before. Would you like
No
to?
problem at all.
Yeah, would you like to outline what you are requesting from the board, please?
We would just like our hours to be changed to Sunday through Saturday until 10 p.m. Yeah, well, we already have the Friday and Saturday. We just want to do the Sunday through Thursday until 10 p.m. What's happening is that, like for instance, the Bridgeway is open later. So the last time we can take a reservation is 6:15 because we need the hour and 45 minutes for people. So people are calling and asking for reservations for 7:30. I can't fit them. And just one night, we had 6 parties of 4 just walk over the bridge right to the Bridgeway to go to dinner because we can't serve them.
So we were wondering if we could just extend it by a couple of hours, just to, we're losing business to across the other town.
We're just trying to compete with the other restaurants around here. And it's not like people are staying at the beach a little bit later and they're not coming off early to go to dinner. They want to have dinner a little later. And a lot of people aren't comfortable coming inside yet, so they don't want to sit inside. So we're just wondering if it's a possibility that we could have until 10 the other nights as well.
So the main thing is you're asking for outdoor. The Bridgeway's indoor, right?
Yes,
Yes.
Ms. Curran?
Can we just review what the current hours are?
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys are now operating under the hours that every other restaurant in Scituate is for their temporary licenses, which is Monday.
Say that again?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's just a little bit hard to hear.
Oh, I'm going through your current hours. Right now, you're operating under. What are the hours you're operating under?
Until 8 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, and until 10 p.m. Friday and Saturday.
Okay. And that's consistent with the other restaurants that we've given this license to. Any other questions? Mara's writing.
Yeah, I mean, just a
Go
quick
ahead.
comment. Our thought behind this was, to limit the hours on the work days so that it wasn't very loud for the residents. And that's why we closed it at 8 o'clock on the Sunday through Thursday. And that's why we allowed it to 10 on the other nights.
Right. One of the things is we have a lot of summer people down here, and it's summer rentals, obviously, for the week. So, I mean, all of our neighbors are asking us to stay open as well. We have the support of them. Like they're the ones calling, wanting to come in for dinner for the outside. So we just didn't know if there was any possibility. We're not doing entertainment or music or anything like that. We just want to be able to feed people and, compete with, say, for instance, the Bridgeway that can stay open later and we can't.
But you're capable of serving inside now, right?
Right, but a lot of people won't come inside. Most of our people are outside.
It's true.
But they'll eat inside at the Bridgeway?
The Bridgeway,
Inside.
they're outside too now.
The Bridgeway's outside?
Where are they
Yeah.
outside of the Bridgeway?
They're outside.
Bridgeway has seating up top. When you look at it, right out front, there's a deck, and then they have some seating around the back. There's a back parking lot, there's a little area right out back.
On the whole side.
86 seats out there.
And they're open till
And they have
9 or 10?
86 seats
10.
outside.
They are?
Are they operating
so.
under the
Bridgeway.
same footprint?
Yeah,
of-
Marshfield.
Oh,
Yeah.
Bridgeway's
They're about a
Marshfield.
3-iron away.
No.
One at a time. I may have to use my gavel on you people.
So they're open till.
Tony, would you like to?
no, I was just, Andrew just brought up a good point. They're working under Marshfield's restrictions, not ours. And does Marshfield let them stay open until 10 every night?
Yeah, they don't have an end time. Marshfield didn't give an end time, so they do stay open later. And it's very hard to compete with them when they can stay open and people can go sit outside and people can't do it here.
I did call the Bridgeway and sent an email. And their kitchen is open till 9 and they're serving basically till 10. I should only call the Bridgeway, I didn't call the
Thank you, Lorraine. Maureen?
Well, in my mind, I don't have a problem mirroring what the Bridgeway is doing. I don't think any of the other restaurants really apply because they're not in the area and they don't have residents around them. The Bridgeway also has residents right next door to them as well. And I can understand from a competitive aspect how it hurts them. I don't know. I'm not. Did we change anything down Front Street?
No, I think
They're all
some
still
of the
at 8.
hesitation is, some of the hesitation on the board, I think, is that we set up the hours to be equitable to everyone that we gave a license to. And although you are, the only one that has applied in that location, we're a little concerned that there may be others who say, well, you let the Voyage do it, and that could be problematic if we were to extend that down in the harbor.
Yeah, with that being said, we're the only game over here. We're not Scituate proper neither. We're over here by ourselves on the peninsula. We're still Scituate, but not Scituate proper. Even though we're the only restaurant here, I thought that, we'd be able to get a couple of hours extended. And on another note, saying that people are coming off the beach at 7:30, 8 o'clock. They're not ready to go to dinner. When they're coming off the beach, it's sunset. It's still bright at 8 o'clock here, and we can't beat them. So that was kind of like what we were thinking.
And I did, just to let you know, I did send some other times that other restaurants are staying open to, like the Fairview has outdoor until 10 o'clock, the Miragasa's till 11 o'clock, Oopsie's until 11:30, Mother Anna's until 10, Tinker's Son until 10,
Yeah,
Maury until 10.
Lorraine, excuse me one second.
I was just looking at what other people had as well. And like I said, it's just.
Okay, none of those are
very hard to
Scituate.
compete, especially with the Bridgeway over here when they just seem to take our business every night.
Lorraine, did we receive, did I recall seeing some correspondence on this? It's not here. Do you recall?
We did receive correspondence. Well, first of all, we received about 90 emails.
Yeah.
90?
About the village, yes.
90, okay.
Yes, and I attached them to the packet. And one recent email we received was a resident who was not paying us $30.
Who is what? I'm sorry?
Not in favor.
I'm sorry, it's the mass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. 90 were, of them, there was majority were in support.
98% were in support.
Okay.
We did receive one recent email for this request of a resident who was not in support of extending it.
All right.
Yeah, but, oh, Madam Chair, may I?
Yes, please, Ms. Curran.
Most of those emails were on June 2nd in support of them opening outside, not necessarily specifically for support of extending to 10 p.m.
Correct.
Okay.
I didn't ask, I told them not to send me emails because I was inundated with emails.
Right, I'm just trying to clarify what these emails are, that's all.
Okay. So generally speaking, the community is thrilled that you're outdoors, and now we just have to decide whether or not we can extend the hours. Michelle, do you see if anyone's waiting to speak? I'm sorry, is anyone? Ms. Conley?
Yeah,
Ms.
what-
Conley.
Q&A session has started.
We'll get back to you. If you'd like to speak about the voyage extension of premises hours, please press *6. Nobody's there. We'll end that. Ms. Connolly.
Thank you. What are,
Q&A session is over.
what are their normal summer hours down there?
Inside? That's a good, later.
And are they ever outside in the summer? Has this ever happened before? 'Cause
They
I
don't have an
think-
outside
No.
license.
All right,
Yeah, they don't have an outside
so
license
I
and they-
think that's kind of the difference, that we're trying to be sensitive to the fact that if there are people outside, it's noisier. And so I think that's why we've got this issue, because if they're normally not serving outside. I don't know what it's like at the Bridgeway, but it could be kind of noisy over there too.
I believe they still have that little ice cream place, which I think would stay open. We're talking about 3 tables on the front, a total of 22 seats. I mean, the amount of noise, and if we're going to be serious about helping these businesses, when they see someone literally across the street taking business, whereas all the other outside dining that we have is foot traffic based, so everyone's playing among the same rules. Now suddenly, these guys here are playing 2 different rules for what we're doing. We're talking 2 hours for 22 seats, and this isn't like the super rowdy area. And how many residential houses are you talking? If you think of that area, it's like, I don't know. I don't have a problem with that at all.
Well, I would like, Mr. Vignani?
I mean, the only thing I'll add is that, as Andrew was alluding to, Hummerock's kind of a different animal in the summer, where they are rentals. They are in more of a residential area in some cases, but most people are on vacation there, and they're kind of used to it. I really don't have a problem with it, and with the caveat that if people are complaining, then we'd ask you to come back to us and talk about it later. But I don't. It's not a big rowdy scenario, and I think we can give it a shot. Is my 2 cents.
All right, well, I'd like to just further add on that obviously all of these these are temporary licenses that we have the right to rescind at any time. That's part of the original contract with them. I think to Lorraine's point, the Bridgeway takes their last order at 9, so that the kitchen closes, so that at 10 you're escorting your people out. And then to remind everyone that the guidelines do not allow a bar situation. So if somebody comes off the beach and wants to order a beer, they have to order food. And just to remind the residents that that's the case in all restaurants right now outdoors. So I'm all right if you can operate under those restrictions.
I'm
So-
jumping ahead of the next thing, trying to see how many people are in here, because we have the engineer.
So Kevin, you would actually be clearing out the area at 10, right? That's, the establishment would be open till 10, you take your last order at 9-ish or something, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you want to stipulate that the outside seating is closed and
Yep.
and done by 10 o'clock.
Right.
Just like Front Street, they are off the
Correct,
street
yeah.
at the 10 o'clock.
Okay,
All right. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I will. Unless someone else has it in front of them. I move to extend the hours for the Voyager extension for permission for the outdoor patio and front porch to extend till 10 PM every day of the week.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Vignani, seconded by Ms. Curran. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 5-0. We have extended your hours. Use them wisely.
I greatly appreciate it, members of the board. Thanks a million. Greatly
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
Good luck.
All right.
Good luck.
Moving right along to our 750 discussion. We will be discussing DPW contracts with Mr. Kevin Cafferty, our DPW superintendent. There are 3 this evening. Thank you, gentlemen. Oh, sorry to keep you all waiting.
No problem at all. Try to-
It was
Is that
Jim's,
right?
it was all Jim's fault. Kevin, do you want to quarterback for us?
Sure. I have 2 contracts with the wastewater treatment plant. First of all, we can start off with those, and then we'll get into the award of the Cedar Point contract. That's the way it was set on the schedule. The first one I had was for bulk soda ash, and bids were put out through the Eastern Mass Chemical Cooperative, which we do every year, and basically, these are the prices that we came up with. Pretty straightforward. And Will's here if we have any other questions or on it. These are the chemicals that are used on a daily basis to complete the process.
Okay. So, yeah, so this is a routine contract that every year has to be bid out, every year?
Well, every 3 years, up to 3 years.
Every
yeah.
3 years, okay.
Depends on the consortium, how it goes out. We have the option to renew, I believe, every year.
Okay, and this contract is for how long?
This is a 3-year contract.
Okay. Do I have any questions from the board?
Just what, did it go up?
It did, by .0047 cents.
Any
Which
other?
is what, that's couple percent, yeah. Okay.
Any other concerns or questions?
Motion?
Motion, please.
Move the Board of Selectmen award the contract to supply bulk soda ash, which is sodium carbonate, to the Scituate wastewater treatment plant at a unit price of 18.25 cents per pound to Munson Companies as outlined in the Eastern Massachusetts Chemical Cooperative, not to exceed a total amount of $339,000.
Moved by Mr. Vignani. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Connolly. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All
Aye.
opposed? 5-0 in support of the motion. Thank you. The next contract, Mr. Cafferty?
So the next contract is for methanol, and that's at the treatment plant for 12.6 per gallon for the bulk deliveries, and the price did go up. I'm sorry, it's a decrease. Will, help me out with that. Did I misread that? We have a decrease?
We have a slight decrease. That one fluctuates depending on like the Methanex or methanol index. So that one, there's a stated range in which the price will arrive in. And there's a chance that, yes, we could be getting a discount for a portion of the year. Fingers crossed.
So this is a 3-year contract, and how often do they revisit the cost?
It's a 3-year contract if the vendor can maintain the prices. If something drastically changes in the market, the prices can be
Come back.
on a yearly basis.
Yearly review.
But we try to do the contract for a 3-year contract.
Okay. Any other questions about this contract? Do I have a motion?
Move that the Board of Selectmen award the contract to supply methanol to the Scituate wastewater treatment plant at a unit price of $1.44 per gallon to $2.06 per gallon to Coin Chemical for a total 3-year contract price not to exceed $126,000.
Moved by Ms. Curran, is there a second? Second by Mr. Vignani, further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no. Ayes have it, 5-0. Thank you, Will. And the small discussion about Cedar Point gravity contract. Mr. Caperty.
So, we did go out to bid for the Cedar Point project. Bids came in under the engineer's estimate, which was good. We had CC Construction, which was the apparent low bidder. They immediately submitted a letter stating that they made mathematical errors in the bid and requested to be withdrawn. The next bidder that came out was Rivoli Construction, and they had missed and not signed some critical pages on the bid, which would disqualify them.
Say that again, Kevin?
They didn't complete the bid properly. They didn't sign the bid, and they omitted a couple pages of the bid. So because of that, they were disqualified.
Was their number true, though?
Just in the bidding regulations, it wasn't a legal bid if they don't complete all the proper paperwork.
What were they at? 5.7?
They were at 5,686, 617. So our third bidder was a complete bid, and it was Albany's DNS. So what I've done is, as you can see, I brought some people in with me. Will is here, myself, this is Ziad, and this is Paul from Environmental Partners. So they had put together the complete package with the letter suggesting who we award the project to, so we can answer any questions that they have. I did submit the letter to our town council. Town council concurs with the conclusions that Environmental Partners brought up. And I guess we could take questions on it.
Okay, so obviously this is the culmination of a long process where the residents very strongly felt that a gravity system was preferable to the pressurized system that had been originally designed. The board voted in favor of supporting that resident request. It was rebid, and now this is the result of the opening of the bids to begin the construction of gravity at the Cedar Point. And I'll remind the residents that this particular area is the largest problem area for seawater infiltration into our plant, and then this will greatly reduce the infiltration into our sewer and consequently increase capacity at our plant. So I will open it up to the board. Are there additional questions? I'm sure there are questions about this contract.
Did they want to tell us about their
Did you have a presentation
decision?
you wanted to?
We can, I'm Paul, we can just talk briefly. I mean, the bids were the bids. We got 8 bids. Unfortunately, the first 2 bids were problems with the 2 bids. Third bid is the most complete bid in terms of bid completeness and accuracy. But we have nothing more to add other than what Kevin said. The bids were received on June 25th and online, and unfortunately, the first and second bidder, there were serious anomalies. Therefore, the bids are not complete. Therefore, the third bidder is the most complete bid and the most accurate bid.
Do you have experience with the Albanese company?
We have worked with them in the past, yes we have.
And
We have also.
It's actually their cousins. Albany's did the Squashka Pond project, sewer project, but these are their cousins. It's not the same company. I thought it was at first.
Oh.
Sorry.
I thought you meant it was
I'm
his
also
cousin.
Ziad Carey with Environmental Partners Group. So Albany's used to be a joint company, and the brothers that Kevin is referencing, those are the guys who kind of worked in town. Albany's DNS is the third bidder, lowest bidder here. We had experiences with them in Plymouth. on the four-span project between 2015 and 2016. We've also worked with them in Framingham on some other projects as well.
And you're comfortable with their work?
Yes, we are comfortable. Actually, everybody here, most of these people on the list, they have the resources to do this type of work.
Ms. Curran?
Thank you. Could you sort of speak to the lines 19 and 20? Those, knowing nothing really about building a sewer, but the gravity sewer, temporary bypass system, and dewatering and discharge, they sound like big pieces. And to me, those seem to be the two largest deltas that impacted the changes of the total bid. And can you talk to me a little bit about, how does a company like Albany say it's only going to be $50,000, yet the next one it's $757,000? I mean, that is a huge delta. And are we going to anticipate a number of change orders to get up to that level?
If I may speak to this, I think you could see across the board contractors bury their numbers somewhere else. Like maybe a contractor may decide to put the number in the pipeline versus another contractor may do it in the dewatering. But I think that our plans and specifications are pretty clear, and the performance of the what's listed on the plans and specifications, it is clear. And then we're not going to waiver on anything that we had said in the on the plans or in the specs. So if it is dewatering and support of excavation, we're going to get dewatering and support of excavation the way we had anticipated.
So sometimes what a contractor will do is they won't have a balanced bid, and it might cost them, with the unit prices, you see some of the prices on there like are a penny for like the copper K. So we know there's so much pipe that they took that money and they put it in like a lump sum or something else because they might think they're betting that there's going to be less copper pipe going in, and they would rather get the money for all that pipe and put it in a lump sum. And they shift around their numbers a lot when they bid, if that makes sense.
It does. I just don't see the delta on another line.
No, I mean, if you look at line 3A,
3C and 4.
If you look at item
$500,000.
5B, well, 5B for Albanese, he has a total of $660,000 for, item 5B is 4-foot diameter gravity sewer fiberglass manholes. His price for that item is higher than the other two bidders, okay? So he has, so
I see.
So he has some, and also on his very, very last item, item number 24, he has $192,000, whereas the low bidder has $50,000. So part of the intrigue of bidding strategy is to, for cutters to put money on certain items that they feel more comfortable with. The reality is the plans and specifications are the plans and specifications we have to do what's our requirements. How they sprinkle their money throughout the items is up to them. But he's low in some spots, but he's also high elsewhere.
Okay. Thank you.
Question. Further questions from the board?
Just one quick question. Can you tell me a little bit about the disqualification of number 2? So they forgot to sign something and they didn't include a page. Is that?
Well, if I may, again, Paul Billis.
Yep.
So the bids were received online back on June 25th. So every contractor, all 8 contractors submitted bids online, and it's uploaded and then downloaded. If you look at the bid from Rivoli, he only submitted, it appears like every other page of his bid. So you see he's missing page 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10 of the actual form of general bid. I'm not an attorney, I'm a civil engineer, but he forgot to sign several pages, and there are significant deficiencies in his submission. So all the other bidders submitted their complete package, which is about yay thick. So we are forced to accept what was submitted at the time and place that the bids were received. Whether it was how it happened and why it happened, I don't know, but there are serious deficiencies in what was submitted.
So it's not deficient because of the other person that forgot to quote things and took his bid out right away. It's really an administrative deficiency that.
Well, he's missing half the pages.
He didn't answer the bid.
In the form of general bid, he's missing pages 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10.
Yeah, so
but in terms of respecting the integrity of the bid process, missing those pages and not signing certain pages is a significant issue.
That's what my question is. It's not optional to say, hey, clearly your facts skipped every other page.
I don't
It's-
know.
yeah.
We can't make a guess on what happened. We have to take what was submitted at the time the bids were received.
So on that subject, I did reach out to town council, sent the whole package over to town council and asked for an opinion. It was Cindy's opinion that the bid should be rejected. One of the problems that we were talking about is if we don't reject that bid, we would potentially get protests from the other bidders for them not completing a complete package in completing all the right paperwork and signatures.
Okay, thanks.
Are there further questions from the board? Thank you for your shepherding this process. Michelle, can we open it up to question and answers?
Q&A session has started.
Hi, if you're here to comment on the Cedar Point contract, please press *6. Anyone there? I hear nobody. I will close.
Q&A session is over.
Board have any further questions, comments?
I do have just
Anyone?
one other question. In the document, it has a total of $10,127,205, which is the town meeting appropriation, the economic development grant, and then the town meeting allocation of 5,427, which brings the total to 10 million. That's not, that number's irrelevant, isn't it? I mean, the quote is 6 point something, and then there's a couple 500 grand for engineering.
6 point something, but remember, we've designed the project twice.
Yep.
And, you know, there's also going to be some oversight from environmental partners as this project is going on. As part of their contract, to make sure it's built correctly,
But we're not expecting it to cost 10.1.
no, that's just the allocation. That was the,
Right, so it's going to cost,
so I think we said 7.5.
Right.
And
Yep.
Nancy might be right behind me to pounce on me on that.
Yeah, town meeting, the warrant said, anticipated at 7.5 to allow for soft costs that might not be in the original contract. And that's what was approved at town meeting. And the 7.4 was less. How do we get to the 5.4 then?
Because we had already voted the previous number.
Oh, you backed out the 4.7? Okay, so it was
Originally,
7.5.
the engineer's
That
estimate,
doesn't
I think,
work, the
was
math
8
doesn't work.
something, or it was 8 something, and we said we would carry, because at that point, we allocated 9.5, because if it was the worst case scenario, the economy was booming, the prices could have come in a lot higher, because it's a high-risk job being that deep. So, one of the things that, you know, this actually worked out with COVID, I'd say. for
but
cost-wise.
that's the total cost of the project, but we had $4.7 million coming from other areas, right?
Yep. I'd have to look at the numbers, Tony, I'd check
Yeah,
with Nancy.
I'm just, that number's just a little deceiving, because I think it's going to cost, again, I can't remember, what was the quote, 6.3?
So the,
6.3.
6.33, and then we've got 500 grand in engineering, if I remember correctly, so it's about 7, and then there'll be some additional costs for oversight.
Right.
So we're really talking at something
7.
7 point something.
Well, 7.5 is what we put on the warrant.
No, but that didn't include,
No,
Yeah.
but the town authorized, the town meeting authorized the town to expend 7.5 million. We know then we will take from that the 2.5 and the 2 from the grant.
yeah, the
Okay.
7.5 was above and beyond. These two things already passed. The 2.5 million passed at a previous town meeting, and the 2.2 is a grant.
Yeah.
So the 7.5 was above and beyond that. So just so we're in the same ball, the total cost of the project, let's say it's going to be 7.5 million, of which we have 4.7 million. So the taxpayers are going to be at about $3 million.
The neighbors.
Yeah, excuse me, the betterment.
Right, the
Thank you
betterment
for
will be
correcting
on
me.
$3 million.
The betterment people in Cedar Point will have about a little under $3 million of expense they'll be paying from the betterment. Is that correct?
That sounds about right, and
Yeah.
I would defer to Nancy for the exact
Okay,
figures.
I mean, just that 10 million numbers,
Well, it sounds awkward. Originally, we had said 9.5 for our estimate.
And you have, percentage-wise, how many easements would you say in place?
We were over 70, and I gave Dave Ball the list of who was outstanding, and we'll probably do one more letter and say, if you don't have the easement, you won't be connected up to sewer if we don't have the easements.
And if we award this contract today, what's the timing
Oh,
for
that
it?
was the next question, right? So we're probably going to be 2 weeks going back and forth with contractors and getting the contract all signed, sealed, delivered. The contractor has to get his bond and his insurance for the project. So that could run 2 to 3 weeks. At the same time, then they're going to start their submittal process. The submittal process could take a couple weeks. In all honesty, you're looking at, maybe 5 to 8 weeks for startup, in a best case scenario, I'd say. But they'll get going out there as soon as they can.
that's perfect. How about right after Labor Day?
And the construction, as I understand it, is incremental, so if we hit a patch of bad weather, they can just close up that section they're working on and wait until we can get back to
Yeah,
the
they
next
can.
section.
It's the big thing is going to depend on the bypass, because as you saw, there's money in the bypass. So one of the things we have to be really careful, because that area is surrounded by water on each side. You've got residents, you've got kids out there playing. We don't want to have raw sewage puddles on the side of the road. So we're manning it with the bypass. We'll have it manned, and we'll make sure it goes properly, and it doesn't freeze or fail or break or anything to that effect. So, yeah, hopefully.
Nancy, now that you're in the room, can you just walk us through so we have a little more clarity on the town meeting vote and the funding of this? Because as Mr. Vignani pointed out, it's a little misleading that we've got $10 million of funding and the project is not anticipated to be near that amount?
So, I'm sorry for leaving. I left for social distancing reasons and went next door and started playing with my adding machine and got totally sidetracked. So
We can never go on without you, Nancy.
we have the article from the April 2017 town meeting, Article 3FF, which was the $2.5 million, which was the original amount for the project. Out of that, we have contracts of $427,000 against that for the original engineering and then the revised engineering. We have the NASWORKS grant of $2.2 million, and then we have, so those two authorizations are 4.7, and then we have a special town meeting authorization for, let's find what the article was.
7.5.
I thought it was 3.7.
7.5.
It was 3.7 to get you to a construction cost of 7.5.
The 7.5 was deducted from that when I talked to you.
Here, bear with me for just 1 second.
Okay, so this is completely...
Bringing up the time.
So the way the warrant was written, it was to a total of 7.5.
Yeah, it was to get to the 7.5 construction total, and I believe it's 3.7 million. I'm 99%
Okay.
sure. I just want to look it up to be 100% sure.
That makes more sense.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you
But
for that clarity.
I guess the town meeting on the document that we're looking at says the town meeting allocation was 5,427.
That was the original town meeting, what was published in the warrant, and then we
That's-
reduced it when we had the bid amount.
Okay.
That makes
Thank you for
much
that
more
clarity.
sense.
Now we understand. Okay.
Do you know what the betterment's going to be, Nancy?
Yes, actually, that spreadsheet I actually do have open. Based on what was voted at town meeting, we were expecting a betterment of approximately $25,411, which would be about $2,500 a year and going down from there.
Right?
Oh, sorry, and the article was $3,227,205. Wonderful things happen when you get on the right page of the spreadsheet.
Yeah, great. Okay. All right. So, we already opened up for questions. Any more discussion amongst the board? Anyone here like to say anything more? Well, I'll entertain a motion.
Move the Board of Selectmen award the contract for construction services for Cedar Point Sewer Improvement Project to Albany's DNS for the amount of $6,336,962.
Moved by Mr. Vignani. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Ms. Curran. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No? Ayes have it, 5-0. Congratulations for all this hard work, gentlemen. We look forward to getting this project completed. Thank you, Will. I know
Will.
you're looking forward to it, too.
Thank you, Will. Kevin, thanks for all the work.
And to the 30% of the residents who haven't done their easements, please get those in so that there's not a delay.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for waiting. Sorry to keep you waiting. All right, moving right along. Our 810 is ratification of restaurant extension of premises for Riva. This is the end of the. Jim, you want to run through that real quick?
Sure. We've applied for the seating on Front Street, which would necessitates the closing between Allen and Otis. What they're doing there is putting some seats on the street and actually doing some of the stuff from Old Salt Society. So they started last weekend. It went pretty well, but the board then has to bless my approval.
We talked about this a little earlier. Does anyone have any further comments or questions? I will note the food was amazing. I went down yesterday, or whatever day it was. What day is today? Do I have a motion?
Will the Board second ratify the temporary license issued by the town's administrator to the following restaurant to serve liquor under the temporary extension of premises and outdoor seating license in accordance with COVID Order Number 35 and consistent with the process of approving such requests established by the Board of Selectmen, and the establishment is Riva.
Moved by Mr. Vignani. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Connolly. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Moves 5-0. Thank you. Next item is the discussion review of the Board of Selectmen meeting packet guidelines. Let me just get to that. So, this conversation, shortly after after the election and change of the board, I met with Lorraine to discuss ways that we can make sure that we be as efficient as possible. I failed tonight, but it is always our goal. And one of the things that has been slippery over the last few years is enforcing the deadlines for which something gets on the agenda and for which something gets into our packet. So before you is what has always been the guidelines, which is that if we're going to put something on the agenda, it needs to be put on the Tuesday prior, and that the backup that will get to all of us is provided by Thursday morning. Obviously, the benefits to that is we're not running around like crazy people over the weekend trying to digest a lot of information that we can make informed decisions on it. So I wanted to bring this up now as a discussion and propose that at our retreat we have further discussions about ways to expedite our review of things during normal course of business. So we don't really have to have a vote. I just wanted to see how you guys felt about just sort of being a little more strict about enforcing those rules, and if you would agree to put it on the agenda for next week's conversation, have the bigger conversation.
Sure. No, I think it's great if it helps Lorraine and it helps the office get things done. Question.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of this is for department heads, but also residents. Do we post these guidelines on our website?
We can do that.
I think we should.
Yes.
And that way we have something to fall back on.
I think a lot of the emergency ones are
Yeah,
end up
of
being
those,
from
right.
residents going, oh, I didn't know, so, yeah.
Right.
Questions? Okay, Lorraine, if I don't think there's any, I don't think we have to vote on this, so Lorraine, would you just send a reminder to the department heads, and then let's post something on our webpage and social media about that, and then whoever has next Monday's, I do, at next Monday's update, I will make sure that we also include reminders to people that, you know, it does help the functioning of town hall if we do this in an orderly manner. Okay. Ready to move on? The last main item on ours is discussion establishment of inclusion equity group for the town of Scituate. When Chairman Vignani was presiding, he made an announcement on behalf of the board that in light of the recent protests and interest in making sure that we're doing all we can to further equity and inclusion in our community, that the board would like to establish some kind of group in order to review policies and procedures and see where we can improve. And we decided to wait till after town meeting to take that up, which is what we'd like to do now. Meanwhile, the school committee and the new superintendent have had almost parallel conversations about this topic, and also very much want to do a community-wide outreach. They're about a week ahead of us and have already begun forming such a group. I had a brief conversation with the superintendent, and he spoke in turn to the school committee, and they would very much like to partner with us so we're not duplicating efforts, and to put together a very broad-reaching group to look at these things. So, first item of discussion for the board is, do you agree with that approach? And the second will be, how would you see that group constituted? So I will open it up for comments and questions. To anyone that wants to chime in. Look, the first one, are we in agreement that combining forces with other departments is advantageous to the community?
I think that was the intent, you know.
Yes,
When we were talking about it, we were saying school would be involved, police would be involved, fire would be involved, public would be involved, you know, that there would be a very broad reaching, you know, group of people that would be able to participate in hopes of getting feedback from many channels. So I think it fits right into what we were talking about prior to the town meeting. I don't know what their layout is. I haven't spoke with the superintendent in terms of what they've done already, but
they're right at the beginning,
Yeah.
and they haven't really taken the step. Once we had this conversation, they agreed to wait until we had a chance to gather our ducks and then bring them all together.
Right.
I would just add that, you know, I'm sure their focus is very obviously school-related, whereas the request that sort of bubbled up for us was police department, financial resources related. So I would suggest that you and the chair of the school committee draft a combined outlook, if you will, a combined charge, or else we can be sitting going in circles, and we want to make sure that we're all aligned and have good community representation to address all, because they are all intertwined, but I think it makes sense to come up with a charge.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. And they intend to have a macro charge that we will all agree to, but then the school committee, as I understand it, will form a subcommittee that will just address issues related to the schools.
Mm-hmm.
And I would imagine that I wouldn't be surprised if the police department didn't do the same or whatever, but this group would be able to look at everything from a third-party perspective. Additional comments?
Are we going to put any sort of time frame on this so that it doesn't become a committee that just goes on and on and on with no, and what kind of, are they going to make recommendations to the school committee and the Board of Selectmen? And I would suggest that, having been on the superintendent pre-screening committee of 17 people, that was way too many. So I would suggest that people concentrate on having real people who have an opportunity to present a very particular viewpoint, whether it's clergy, whether it's police, whether it's schools, whether it's the students. The students need to be represented, but that we not form a committee that is so unwieldy that they won't be able to meet and come to conclusions and make recommendations, because I'd be looking for what, if any, recommendations they would have.
That's great feedback. Mr. Goodrich, anything to add on
No,
that?
I mean, I guess I'm trying to figure out really the genesis of where this came and where on the school department side, exactly what their charge is going to be. And I'm with you that we don't want to make sure that we're getting lost or it's going too far down the field. Sorry, I was thinking.
Nowhere. Yeah.
Right. So, no, I think clarity and having some sort of some actual deadlines and also some action items, I think will be pretty important. And I was again just trying to figure out who else already has been involved that's reached out to say that they wanted to participate. That's all.
Okay.
The only thing I'd add, I completely agree with Karen and what Andrew said. I think it's people can participate in a public forum, but don't necessarily have to be on the committee.
Right.
So it's, I don't think we have to worry about putting one person from every possible venue on the committee, but the important part is going to be to communicate when the forums or the whatever the opportunities are for the meetings for people to get out and give feedback. So.
Okay. So the big question is, in this body, obviously, I would recommend that we have a representative on this, obviously. And is there, so I think the next step is to figure out which of us will take that lead and start working with all of, and defining all of these things. I think we're all moving in the right direction. We just need to assign people. So I am more than happy to do it, but I am absolutely open to if somebody really wants to be part of defining this and crafting what the commission's going to do or whatever it ends up being called. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll say as the chair, that at least to start with, for you to be talking to the chair of the school committee.
Okay.
And going from there, and then once the committee has the charge and it's formed, then I think I'd certainly be willing to look at it, but until it's more clear.
That makes sense.
All right, I'm scheduled right now for a July 13th, which is I think Monday, meeting with the chair of the school committee and the new superintendent. I've asked Jim to sit on that meeting as well. We'll obviously be talking about more than just this, but we'll make sure that we get the ball rolling on this particular one and identify, and I would think we would ask Mark Thompson, who would he like to participate and get it going. I think we did talk about a 1-year time frame, but a defined time frame, so that we would finish the review and it wouldn't be an ending. Okay. Great. All right. Thank you, everyone. That brings us to other business, which would be liaison reports. Anyone have a liaison report they'd like to start with?
I just have
Ms.
one.
Curran?
That the Scituate 2070 Coastal Visioning Project is wrapping up. So just want to remind folks that there is a community question and answer scheduled for Wednesday, July 8th, which is tomorrow, at from 7 to 9 p.m., and you can register to attend. I would suggest you just go to Scituate2070vision.org, and you will see the appropriate links to either attend that feedback session, or you can also read the draft document. So it's just a nice wrap up for all the participation that folks took part in pre-COVID with regards to visioning. So it seems like 2 years ago. So that's my update, Madam Chair.
Nope, I have nothing for the last 2 weeks.
Nothing happening? All right. The only thing I would add is I just want to give a heads up to the board. The EDC has been working with the chamber directly and also through the Scituate Loves Local group. There are plans being developed to create some sort of event to support local business. On the weekend, they would have done Heritage Days, so I think it's the third week in August, which would be Luminaria, possibly a boat parade, and they're working on sort of a First Friday on steroids kind of thing, but just for local businesses. So I promised them that I would give you a little heads up. They will have to come through with a event permit request, and a lot of questions have to be answered, but I wanted to let you know about that. And just remind everyone that we are going to meet in a retreat next week at 6:30 at the Maritime Center. That agenda will be posted Thursday. Thank you. And the purpose of that is to focus on the board's fiscal 21 priorities, as you well know. If you haven't sent them to me, please do so before that date. Madam Clerk, have we any correspondence?
We do. We did receive a letter from Reverend Pamela Bars, who, if anyone watched the town meeting or was at town meeting, she did the invocation, and I thought it was a beautiful invocation. And she sent us a very nice letter, and the clergy are very pleased to hopefully be part of the committee that we're forming. And so that was, I thought, a very nice letter. We received the usual Xfinity notice of cable station changes, and I'm not going to bore anyone with it, so look forward to it in your new cable bill. Channels are moving. And then we did receive an email from a lady down who lives near Museum Beach. I don't know if anyone saw it.
Yes.
Museum Beach is currently littered with people's kayaks, and it's killing the grass down there, and the Conservation Commission is aware of it, and they had planned to do something about it at around Ship-Shape Day. Unfortunately, Ship-Shape Day didn't happen, so it's kind of, I think, back at us, and so I think she has a point, and if you saw the pictures, I mean, it's really kind of appalling that people are just leaving their kayaks down on the beach and killing the grass. So she asked us to take it up. My personal opinion is, maybe we need something like bike racks for kayaks somewhere down in that area. So, and that's it.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Well, what's our, it has to be enforced through conservation, right?
Yeah, so I sent an email to our conservation agent when I saw that and asked her for an update on that. This is not a new issue. It was brought up at the beginning of the season, as you note, and so I'm waiting for the conservation agent to get back on where things stand on her, because I know she's aware of the situation.
It's gotten worse.
I'm meeting with her tomorrow.
It has definitely gotten worse.
I'm meeting with her on it tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Boudreau. I think that concludes our meeting, only slightly behind schedule. I'll like to entertain a motion to adjourn and sign documents.
So moved. Second?
Moved by Ms. Kern and seconded by Mr. Goodrich, just so that you can have it on there.
Seconded
All in
something
favor?
earlier.
Anyone opposed? Thank you, everyone. We will see you next Monday for the town update at 9 a.m.
Night.